journey through the faith with you. Come on, let's roll before your coffee gets cold. It's time for the JP2 Morning Crew.
Hey everyone, good morning and welcome to JP2 Morning Crew here on JP2 Catholic Radio. It is so good to be with you today as we come to you for another week, which means we have a fantastic show, a fantastic guest joining us, and a great opportunity for you if you are a Catholic, first and foremost, and a Catholic professional, and an opportunity to grow in your skills, grow in your leadership potential, and we'll talk all about that. But first, I just want to let you know, here we are in the last week of October, which means if you have not registered for our 10th anniversary dinner, which is coming up on Friday, November 21st in El Centro, I want to encourage you to stop what you're doing right now and head to our website, jp2radio.com. That's JP, the number 2, radio.com. There's a big banner right on the front where you can click and you can reserve your spot for this dinner. Our special guests that evening are going to be Dr. Ray Garendi, a host of The Doctor Is In, and we will also have a guy named Cy Kellett. You've probably heard him before. He's on Catholic Answers Live. He's a good friend of JP2 Catholic Radio, and we are excited to have both him and Dr. Ray join us. So again, jp2radio.com. Sign up for our dinner. You don't want to miss it. We're celebrating 10 years of Catholic radio. And now we are in San Diego. We are in the Imperial Valley, and God is doing fantastic things through that. jp2radio.com. Go and sign up. If you can't sign up now, sign up at some point soon, and we look forward to seeing you there. Also, a reminder, here we are on the 28th. If you're listening live, if you're listening on Friday, 31st, Halloween, we have All Saints Day coming up on Saturday, November 1st, All Souls Day coming up as well on the 2nd. So we're heading into a beautiful month dedicated to the most holy souls. And so if you have an opportunity to get out and visit the gravesite of a loved one, of a friend, please do so. There are some extra, they're called indulgences, some extra graces that are available that the Lord provides as we think about those who have gone before us. So we're heading into November, so we'll have conversations specifically about this, but I do want to bring it to your attention as we get ready to celebrate All Saints, All Souls, and remember our loved ones who have gone before us, who need our prayers if they are not yet in heaven. And so we have an opportunity to participate in a beautiful way. All right. All that said, let's go ahead and introduce our special guest this morning. We have Cristofer Pereyra, who is the CEO of Tepeyac Leadership Institute. And we are excited to welcome you to the show this morning, Cristofer.
Thank you, Brandon. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I'm excited about what you're doing. I've heard about you in years past, and so when you reached out to Steve Barley and said, "Hey, what do you think about helping get the word out through JP2 Catholic Radio?" I was really excited and glad we were able to pull this together. So, for those who have not heard about the Tepeyac Leadership Institute, tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brandon. This is a Catholic apostolate. It's a global apostolate now. It was born in Phoenix, Arizona, founded by Bishop Thomas Olmsted, who's now the Bishop Emeritus of Phoenix. People might identify him by his very well-known apostolic exhortation to men into the breach. Bishop Olmsted founded this organization. Really, it started as a diocesan program at the Diocese of Phoenix in an incubator basis. But then he gave us his blessing to turn this initiative that we had started into its own standalone nonprofit organization, Catholic Apostolate. He gave us canonical status through the church. And so off we went to share this, which we had started in Phoenix, with the rest of the church in the United States and then around the world. And what is it? Ours is primarily a 5-month, 18-week formation experience. It's a unique experience. It's a once in a lifetime experience. You only do it once. It's not a permanent thing. We don't have a membership per se. You're in, you're out, you're done, and you're sent off into the world with a very concrete mindset and a very concrete mission. And that is to insert ourselves into the secular fabric of society, into the secular institutions of society, as to transform them from within, as to infuse them with the values of the gospel. So we train leaders. We form lay Catholic professionals for leadership, but this isn't leadership for the parish or for the diocese. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not what we do. We're forming lay Catholics for leadership in the world, in civil society.
I think that's great. I just had a conversation with a gentleman named John Larea last week on JP2 Morning Crew, and we were talking about prayer as a man, and being formed from within and letting that lead us in all that we do as husbands, as fathers, as brothers. And so I love that this is the conversation we're having the week after, because I think we see it around us, just the tearing apart of the fabric of society over the years. And what's amazing is there are some strong Catholic people that are at the heart of many of the most successful secular organizations. And if they're not Catholic, at the very least, they're strong Christians. And so I think there's something to be said about that in the virtue that we carry and live out in leading organizations that comes from a heart with Christ, Christopher.
Absolutely. And I think that Catholics already are present in every table where decisions are made. This is part of our discourse. This is a recurring theme for us. Behind every human institution, think of a hospital, a university, or a small business, or a government office. There is a group of people that come together on a regular basis to enact policies, to chart the direction of their organization. It takes on different names, but it's often called a board. Those are the places where we need to sit and be present, be the voice of Christ, right? So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about Catholic leadership for civil society. Brandon, you're absolutely right that we already have Catholics in all the spheres of power around the world, really, from the highest office to the law, to our local communities, right? Well, we don't have enough. We have them, but not enough. Are faithful and committed, well-formed Catholics, courageous enough to stand up for truth.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think we're getting there through organizations like the Tepeyac Leadership Institute. Let's dive a little bit more into, how this looks. You mentioned it's a 5-month, 18-week program. What does that look like over those 18 weeks?
Absolutely. You first have to get in. There's an admissions process, and we're in the midst of open enrollment now. But we begin usually the second week of February, and then the commitment is to join the sessions one night per week for 18 weeks or 5 months. These are 3-hour sessions. The sessions are live by Zoom. We are meeting virtually, and that's how we can bring the world together and the nation together into these cohorts. And so at each session, these 3-hour sessions, they're very dynamic, very engaging, very fast-paced. We have designed the sessions to be virtual as if they were in person. So there's a lot of interaction built into it. We start right away. The facilitator starts the top of the session with a discussion on a previous assigned reading, typically an encyclical that has to do, a church document that has to do with the topic of the day. Each of the sessions focuses on one area of human activity or secular life, such as education, healthcare. We have a session on business, government, board service, philanthropy. And we hear, the participants hear from experts. We put in front of them seasoned, really top-notch professionals, Catholic professionals, experts in their field, that put together a 20-minute presentation, 2 or 3 experts per day. Then there's a Q&A panel where the participants are interacting with the experts of the day. Then we dismiss the experts and we move into a challenge that we give the participants, and we split them into small groups. So if it's a class of 30, typically that's an average size. We split them. We go into these breakout rooms that we can do online, and we put them in groups of 3 or 4 or 5 where they can have discussion on the challenge that we gave them. We come back, we discuss that. There's prayer. We always end with an examination of conscience. So they're very dynamic. What we're doing is we're presenting these participants of the program with issues of concern in society, concrete issues. And we talk about the concrete ways in which lay Catholics can step up and lead and fill those gaps. In addition to this, each participant is assigned a mentor, men with men, ladies with ladies, on a one-on-one basis. Each participant visits, touch base with his or her mentor twice a month. And so all of these, we are approaching all of these angles so that by the end of the program, we finally come together in person for a retreat. It's the highlight of the program because by then everybody has really gotten to know one another. They're all friends. And we come together. We used to do the retreat in Phoenix. Now we're doing it at the Basilica of Guadalupe in Mexico City. Now that we've grown to the world stage. For some people, they travel from Europe to go to the retreat in Mexico City. For us in the Southwest or in the United States, it's much closer, much easier. And so at the retreat, we really dive into, we no longer talk about issues. We dive into virtue and into what it means to be a leader and the virtues that are proper to a leader and how they all hinge on the four cardinal virtues, really. And as per the virtues of the leader, we talk about humility and magnanimity, which are the two virtues that are proper to a leader. And so each person graduates from the program with his or her own individual leadership commitment. This is a concrete 100 words or less statement that they read out loud during the graduation ceremony.
Man, there's a lot to unpack there. I love this idea of concrete, right? It's how easy is it to get a bunch of great Catholic folks around with a with a cigar and a cup of whiskey and try to solve all the world's problems, right? But it seems like, yeah, we can have great conversations, but like knowing action steps for what's next, right? That's where things kind of often fall apart sometimes. So I love this idea of like how you help lay Catholics have concrete steps they can take to truly transform whatever industry they're involved in. I love this idea of mentors, mentorship. I think we saw you can see it in scripture, right? Jesus, he had his 12 apostles, but who did he have close to him? He had Peter, James, and John, who he mentored, who he took up onto the mountain of the transfiguration, right? There's all these great examples in scripture that you seem to be, bringing to life. So we understand that we don't have to try to figure this out on our own. The Leadership Institute does a fantastic job of giving us those practical steps and then walking with us in that. And I think that's so important because it's so easy, Cristofer, to try and, I don't know, reinvent the wheel sometimes, and not know which direction to turn or know how to go about something. So to have something like the Tepeyac Leadership Institute to be able to offer this specific training, I think is so important, especially to young Catholic professionals who are trying to find their way in life. Many of them probably have, families, wives and young children, and there's just a lot going on in life at this point.
Absolutely. And what we do is our professionals in the early to mid stages of their career, so they're in the midst of a lot. And that's why we have designed a program that is very flexible, that can be a manageable, light commitment. In addition to the sessions, the participants don't really need to do any homework, anything outside of the sessions. So the main commitment is to be present, to participate, to take it in. Probably the additional sacrifice is traveling to the retreat, and all they need to do is get there. We cover the lodging; it's all included in the program. But even for those who cannot travel, there's a virtual version of the retreat, which makes it completely easy for somebody who is not able to be there. But the idea really is that we are in a mission to try to change the chip in the minds of lay Catholics who maybe don't understand that our field of mission as laity is the world. I don't know if you've seen this before. I have been there myself. Often, when a lay Catholic has an experience of encounter or re-encounter with Christ, maybe they went to a retreat or something happened in their lives. Suddenly, their heart is on fire, and they want to find their place in the church. They want to serve God. They want to give back. What do we often do? We go back to the parish and we sign up for every ministry, every apostolate, every activity we find. We just sign up for everything. Say, yes, we get busy. Sometimes we set up a tent and camp at the parish. But that is not the authentic character of the lay vocation. So I tell people, listen to what I'm saying. We're not saying that you shouldn't be involved in your parish community. Absolutely, you should. And you should be of service to your pastor. And you should be going there regularly to frequently strengthen yourself with the frequent reception of the sacraments. 100%. And then go out, because our field of mission is in the world. And if God has blessed us with a professional career, with a college education in most cases, then that wasn't a coincidence. That was meant to be our field of mission. So right where we are is our mission. So what does that mean? How do I become a lay Catholic leader in education, in healthcare, in business? That's what we talk about.
Yeah, I think that's important. If you're just tuning in, this is JP2 Morning Crew here on JP2 Catholic Radio. I'm having a great conversation with Cristofer Pereyra, who is the CEO of the Tepeyac Leadership Institute. And, we're talking about forming young Catholic professionals to go out into the fabric of society, right? And to engage in meaningful ways and really just I think bring society closer to Christ in all that we do. Christopher, I want to dive deeper into what you were just talking about, and specifically, I'd like to talk about areas of like healthcare, business, and there's many different arenas within each of those, but there can be a lot of frustration in those areas, right? Because they're not always the most faith centered in the decisions that they make. How do you teach the folks who are going through the Tepeyac Leadership Institute to manage those frustrations and be able to work within them to create meaningful change?
Absolutely. So the first thing we always say is that there really isn't a magical pill that can solve all of our problems and that will work for every situation. And so then we need to realize that while we never want to compromise our values, there's a reason why our Lord gave us our gifts and talents and our intelligence, right? We can and should be strategic about what we do, right? We don't always need to show all of our cards right from the beginning. And what do I mean by that? A big aspect of what we teach and encourage people to get involved with is board service, sitting at boards, participating in serving on boards. And so we tell them, let's say that you are serving on a public school district, or let's say the board of a hospital, you said healthcare. Um, there is you're in a board meeting and there is a policy that comes up for a vote. There is a presentation, then it comes up for a vote, and there's some discussion too. And you know that there is something clearly wrong with the policy. It's just immoral. It's just something that goes against our Christian values. We can think of a million examples. And you can't vote for it as a Catholic in conscience. So maybe the most strategic thing to do is not to bang on the desk and say, I oppose this because I'm a Catholic. That's not going to go very far, because those are religious reasons, our faith arguments don't mean much to others who don't share our faith. But the good thing is that reason, science, and the natural law are always on our side on all of these issues. So we look at this policy and we look at its weaknesses and we attack it from those weaknesses, and we oppose it through those means. And if we are successful in not allowing it to get adopted, like let's say some ideology infested curriculum in a public school district somewhere around the nation, right? Where they're going to really pollute the minds of our children. We could attack it through its weaknesses, through science, through reason, and simply not permit it to be implemented. And that will be a win. That will be a win for the kingdom. and we didn't have to do it through other means, but by using reason, which is something God gave us.
So, how about for those younger professionals who are very early into their careers, and they have just the busyness of family life, right? Littles in the home. I'm speaking like I've got a 4 year old, a 2 year old, and a 6 month old, right? And I just don't actually have time outside of that to sit on a board or to do other those any of those other things because it's just so busy at home and I need to be here to support my wife. How can young professionals who might be in like my position be able to utilize the Tepeyac Leadership Institute to work forward in their particular situation?
Yeah, the truth is that today, especially, we look at what we're doing now. We're connecting. I am at home. I don't know. Are you at home? Do you have a studio
Yes,
at
I
home?
am. Yep.
Look at this. Look at what we're doing now. The board meetings for my organization, Tepeyac Leadership, take place today through Zoom, and another board that I sit on a school district also takes place through Zoom. It's a large board, large organization. Takes place through Zoom. I hardly ever need to get on my car. So in reality, technology today is on our side and we can get involved. The important thing is that we have our priorities straight. God always comes first, and our family, right, is next. That's our responsibility. But after that, with the time that we have allowed for professional endeavors, right, and board service comes into this, it's a part of professional life. We just simply need to be efficient. We need to work it in, and we can work it in. When we become organized, is when we realize how much time we have available, actually. So it is doable, Brandon. When we think of a board, oftentimes we think our mind goes into some movie that we watch, and we think of a large boardroom, conference room in a high rise in New York. That's what we think of. But there's only one type of board. In reality, every institution in society has some type of body that governs it, and that typically people can get involved and find their way through that table where decisions are being made. So we tell people, yes, we are absolutely talking about the halls of Congress, but don't stop there. Think about your local public school district, your parent teacher organization, your homeowners association, every table where decisions are made.
And how do you teach these folks who are going through the institute to discern wisely and truly try to understand? You know, because there's lots of great things out there and there's lots of opportunities, right? So how do you teach the discernment to understand where the Lord truly probably is calling us to try and make a difference?
Well, a lot of this has to do with the mentorship. The mentors,
Mm.
we assign mentors precisely for that reason, so that they can guide them through the discernment. And that's what the whole program is, really. It's just this beautiful 5 month, 18 weeks discernment experience where you are entering a conversation with God, asking Him what He's asking of you next in your professional life and in your spiritual life. And this is what the graduates tells us, that through the program they find the answer to that question, what God is asking of them next. So the program becomes a catalyst in their career. They're able to pivot in a new direction or take their career to the next level and their spiritual life, because both components are explored in the program.
That's great. So, if somebody is sitting out there listening right now and they have interest in looking into the Tepeyac Leadership Institute, and maybe they, so first of all, they want to learn more. How can they learn more?
Everything is at tliprogram.org. Perhaps on the internet you can put the website there. tliprogram.org, for Tepeyac Leadership Initiative program.org. And yeah, with the application is there, and they can complete it and submit it through November 10th. There's a frequent asked questions section there. There's a video. There's a lot of resources that they can find. And at this point, they can Google the name of the organization and the program, and they'll find testimonials. They'll find lots of resources that they can, videos with testimonials that they can watch and learn more about it.
That's great. Yeah, we'll definitely, to those listening right now who don't have an opportunity to hop on a web browser and type in TLI Institute, or excuse me, TLI
tliprogram.org.
program, tepeyac.org. We will for sure put that in the show notes so that you can go and find it. Now, if somebody is impressed by this, if somebody is like, wow, this is exactly what I need in my life, what's the next steps, Cristofer?
The first step really is applying for admission. So you submit your application much like you would apply to a university, only you don't need an SAT score. So you complete the application online. We ask you for a letter of recommendation, which can come from anyone. Upload a resume. You'll schedule an admissions interview, which takes place in early January, and we let the applicants know whether they were admitted in the program on the last week of January. So we began the second week of February.
And open enrollment is going on right now, you said,
Yes.
and I believe it goes through November 10th, right?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. So, to those listening, if you do want to look into it, I encourage you to look into this soon. Right, we're sitting here October 28th. Or if you're listening on, the encore, this is October 31st. So we're not talking about a lot of time remaining, but I do want to encourage you to look into that. I think we hear a lot of ideas out there, right? And there's lots of great programs, and we often find ourselves listening to podcasts or watching these videos and be like, man, I think that'd be kind of a really good idea, but then it kind of stops there, right? And I think it's important to know that the Lord allows us to experience these things in certain ways. Now, it might be just like, hey, that's a really great idea, maybe I'll share it with a friend or something like that. But the Holy Spirit could be moving as well, and wanting you to do more than just check out the Tepeyac Leadership Institute. So, as we talked about last week on the program, give the Lord time to work in your heart and sit with this and truly discern, is this something that the Lord can use to help me not just be a better professional, but to live a more virtuous life, right? And that's not just going to make you better at the work that you do and the volunteer organizations that you're a part of, but it's also going to make you a better spouse. It's going to make you a better parent, and it's going to just transform your life as a Catholic. And I think that's really important, right? I think too often, Cristofer, we try to separate things, but I think it's not good to always separate that and realize that it all is working toward our good.
100%. We must be living integrated Catholic lives. Our faith should guide every aspect of our lives, right? Every aspect. There shouldn't be an exception. 100%.
So if there's somebody listening right now who's been really moved by our conversation today, what advice would you have for them, especially if they're a young Catholic professional?
What I will tell them is that you said young, so those years of youth that the Lord gives us are often confused by the world, and the world tells us that this is a time to enjoy yourself, to experiment, to have fun, and it's a lie. It's a lie. Those years of prime, when we are at our prime physical capacity, and perhaps even intellectual capacity, we are so vigorous in everything that we do. Those are times to be heroic. That's the time of heroism. So young adults today, young Catholic professionals, are right now at the time in their life when God is calling them to be heroic as children of God, to be heroic as spouses, if they already are in a marriage, and to be heroic in the career or profession that God has given them, because it isn't a coincidence. It isn't just like my taste on cars or on clothing. That's a professional vocation. It's something that the Lord gave you as the way that you will sustain yourself and you will make this world better. So that is your field of mission. Through our program, we don't want to ask them to change anything that they're doing right now. We want to show them how what they do can be their means to sanctification.
Absolutely. And you're here in the last 30 seconds. How about somebody who isn't a young professional in their career anymore, but maybe they've advanced a little further along? What advice would you have for them?
Well, they also have much to give. In our program, there is not an age restriction. And while we do attract a lot of millennials, we get people in their 50s and 60s. as well, very often every year, and they all take away something. We love having them in the program because as soon as they graduate from TLI, we're asking them to come back as mentors or speakers, and so something clicks, and they understand. They have some gifts, they have some. When you become a seasoned professional, you're 50, 60, a mature professional, you have a network, you have some resources that you can tap into. There's a lot of good that you can do. And so the program gives us some pointers on what that can look like.
That's great. Again, encourage you to check out tliprogram.org. That's tliprogram.org. Cristofer, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for doing what you're doing and helping Catholic professionals continue to grow in virtuous ways of living in the working world, but then also just becoming, more wholesome Catholic men and women.
It's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you, Brandon.
Absolutely. If you missed any of today's show, I want to encourage you to head to our website, jp2radio.com, and you can find our program under the programming, JP2 Morning Crew, to listen to the podcast. We're also on YouTube and Facebook, so if you'd like to watch any of the shows there, please do. We bring you JP2 Morning Crew every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, with an encore on Friday at 9 a.m. That, my friends, brings us to the end of today's show. Up next, it is Life is Worth Living with Archbishop Fulton Sheen. So we'll see you again next week. God bless.